Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Footy Talk Show. As we are recording this, it is the evening, so I'm going to say a little innuendo and say good evening, as we have just played Aston Villa. We do have our normal co-host. We have Ads AGN Football. Hello, Adam. How are you today, my brother?
Doing very well, thank you. Feeling very buoyant after the game at the weekend. 6 out of 6, 2 out of 2. We can't complain, can we?
No, of course we can't. Of course we can't. And also, we have a special guest. He's been on the pod before. And if everyone can drop in the comments and say hello to Graham Brooks. How are you, Graham? You okay?
I'm very well, Jamie. Yeah, it's great to be back with you, boys. I know we shared a platform a couple of months ago, so I've been looking forward to tonight. We did a preview show, didn't we? So we said we'd get back and sort of discuss Arsenal's early season form. And as Adam said, we've got 2 wins out of 2, so it's good to come back on. And great that the team has started so well.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. So predominantly today, people, we are here to talk about the start of the season. So it could be the Fulham game to the Aston Villa game. Obviously, we're going to talk on Aston Villa because it was very, very recent. I'm going to pull up something here for everyone to see. Ads, can you see this on your screen? Let me pull it up here. Sorry, people. There we go. So here we have, I'm pulling up just the stats and stuff here for everyone to see. So Arsenal Football Club played Aston Villa on Saturday, 24th of August. It was a 5:30 kickoff and we won 2-0. Adam, do you want to put into some words regarding this result here? Just give us a quick overview of what you thought of it, bro.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. I mean, when we discussed games and the important moments in our last podcast, the three of us, well, four of us, as it was on that occasion, I said that football's a game of moments, and this was a big example of that. There were 2 or 3 very key moments in this game. The first one was Watkins had that chance, something like 6 yards out, steered it wide. For all the world, it looked like he'd put that in the back of the net. On form, he puts that in the back of the net. The second moment you've got, and I think probably touch on this a little bit later on in the show, but David Raya's save from that Watkins header when it came off the bar, how he managed to save that. I know, obviously, the Sky Sports pundits, which was where I watched it, said, it was straight at him. If it'd been anywhere else, the ball goes in the net. That was an outstanding save, and it's incredible save. And winning titles is about moments. Obviously, when we last won the title back in 03-04, there were moments that went for us, big moments where we didn't crumble. We got through, whether that be with a win or a draw. On this occasion, a win, absolutely massive. Had Villa gone 1-0 up, different game. Had Villa gone 1-0 up later in the game, different game. But they didn't, and we held firm. David Raya has really come into his own. He made an outstanding save against Wolves as well, actually, the week before.
Yeah.
And Arteta has looked like he's made absolutely the right call with this one. I know it was questioned around this time last season when Ramsdale was initially replaced. But these big moments are what you need to capitalise on. And we did that. We did that with bells on. That Trossard goal, great finish. Proving a point again. Why am I not in the starting lineup? He looked a bit annoyed after he scored the goal, but that's good because that's fire, that's hunger, that's something that he can thrive on. And competition for places is exactly what's needed. And then, of course, Partey scored the second one, which arguably Martinez should have done a little bit better with. But we absolutely capitalised on the key moments in the game, and that's something we're going to have to do as we move through the season in other games, because there's going to be a lot of tough away games throughout the season. We've got a few more coming up very soon, Tottenham, Man City, just to name a couple, but there are going to be a lot of tests. This was the first big one, and we've passed it with flying colours.
100%. I just want to apologise to people as well, because I don't know why I've said Fulham, but I do think that was because I was watching Smith Rowe's goal just literally before we come on. So I've said Fulham just prior. Graham, do you want to sum up the game for us? Do you want to let us know how you feel about this football match?
Yeah, I thought, Jamie, it was a big statement win, and I think when we look back on this result, I think it'll be looked back upon as more than just 3 points, because it was the first big double header of Champions League teams this season. Aston Villa finished 4th last season, Arsenal finished 2nd, so it was in that terms, the game of the weekend. And you have to remember that Villa, a Champions League club, Villa were a team who took 6 points out of 6 off us last season. They came to the Emirates back in April and dealt us that crushing blow with that 2-0 win, which effectively ended up sealing Manchester City's title. stopped us getting closer to Man City. And of course, when we went to Villa Park in December, we lost up there as well, which precipitated that run of poor results in December, which ultimately proved so costly. So I think it would have been psychologically wounding to have lost up there on Saturday, bearing in mind we'd lost to them twice last season and we wanted to put that right. So it was a big fixture for that reason as well. And I think the thing I love about this team, and when I came on the show with you and Adam and Joshua before, I talked about this team. I had every confidence in this team away from home. And we got 3 big away fixtures. This is the first of the big 3. We had Villa and we got Tottenham and Man City to come. But the record now away from home is absolutely outstanding. I think we've won 9 of our last 10 away games. We've scored 30 goals and only conceded 3.
Yep.
And we've had some big results in that run. We've won at Man United, we've won at Tottenham, we beat Villa on Saturday, we drew at Man City, we drew at Liverpool.
Yep.
Apart from the Tottenham game, the way we won that game, we conceded 2. The defence has been impeccable. And what I love on Saturday, and I know we're going to talk about this game in detail tonight, the moment of the game for me was the first half incident, which summed up this team, the way we love defending. We're not going to be bullied by any team. And when Ollie Watkins, who, as Adam said, missed 2 big chances, when he was in that corner and Saliba came across and took the ball off him, and they're sort of like jostling for the ball, and Saliba comes away with it. McGinn, who's a nasty little guy, and I hate McGinn, he comes in and he just kicks the ball at Saliba when he's on the ground. And Ben White, with pure shithousery, just comes across and thinks, I'm not having any of that. I'm just going to boot it straight back at him. And he literally levers it straight into his chest. That told me everything you need to know about our team, that we're not going to be bullied. The players are going to stand up for each other. Ben White, I love Ben White. He epitomised that defence on Saturday and why we're so good away from home. And ultimately, it's because we're so good away from home, we give ourselves the platform to go and win the game. I think the big tactical thing for me in first half was the fact I've noticed in both games now that teams are stopping us playing through central midfield. They're basically, when we invert our left fullback, the 2 forward players will sit on the midfield 2. That's Partey and Timber. Rodgers and Watkins were doing that on Saturday. And then the 2 centre mids, their 2 centre mids, Tillemans and Arna, were sitting on Rice and Odegaard. So they're trying to stop us playing through midfield, through our box midfield. But eventually, of course, we found a way, getting up high, using our wide players, and ultimately Saka and Gabriel Trossard, actually, as Adam said, Saka with the cutback, which ultimately finds his way to Trossard for the first goal. And then the second goal, I think, when Gabriel picks out Trossard running in behind, although his cross doesn't find an Arsenal player, Saka's able to retrieve it and push it back to Partey, and his shot goes in. So it's the solid defence gives us a platform to go and win those games. And that's what I loved about that performance on Saturday night.
Graham has summed it up perfectly. So even everything you've said there, I was going to pull up the away results, and I was going to touch on how Morgan Rodgers and Ollie Watkins were sitting on our 2 men there. We couldn't play through the middle like we normally do, that cutting edge pass, and we couldn't do it. I am going to touch on one certain player who I do think was quite a pivotal moment as well. We were already winning at that point in the game. That Saliba tackle, wow. You know how much space Rodgers, I think it was Morgan Rodgers what was running through. He had a good 10 meters on Saliba. He had a good 10 meters on him. And now I'm putting this out there for people, and you can say it in the comments. I've put it already out there on my TikTok, and most people agree with me. Saliba is up there as the best centre back in the world at the moment. And I know people are going to be like, delusional Arsenal fan, you've got your Arsenal. Who's better than Saliba at the moment? I don't think we've had a centre back like this in a very, very, very long time. And I'm talking all the way back to Tony Adams. We had Sol Campbell, but Saliba's ceiling, his ceiling is up there. You know, like Virgil van Dijk's heights, where Virgil van Dijk hit them heights where he's going for Ballon d'Ors, that's Saliba's ceiling. And Virgil van Dijk was over at Celtic at 22 years old. He weren't doing this for one of the biggest clubs in the league, fighting for a title, and he's just unreal. That defense, that solidity. I've butchered my words like I normally do, but the back 4 is just wow. I think Timber played really well as well. I think he's gelled in quite good, because you think this is his first season. It necessarily is his first season, because what he played after the game, didn't he? At the first game this last season. And they just look so fluid. Gabriel made that little calamitous mistake with on the right wing with Bailey, weren't it? Where he's got the bit of the better of him. But that's the only time I've really seen the defence scup at. And I'm going to touch on David Raya, just like you spoke on as well, Adam. David Raya, when we went and watched Arsenal against Wolves, He pulled off an immaculate save when it was 0-0, and then that changed the game for us that day. He's done the same again. He's done the same again. And for all the fans I've seen, like when we were talking about Ramsdale coming in and so forth, and everyone was complaining, Arteta has justified that tenfold now. Absolutely tenfold. There's no keeper apart from, you can say Edison and Alisson. There's no keeper better in the league than David Raya, apart from Alisson and Edison. It's really quite that simple. And he's still got a good couple of years. He's priming for another 2-3 years. Goalkeepers are primes like 31, 32. He's 27, 28 years old. So I still think he's got a lot of that to come. And also, I'm just going to touch on, I had a lot of Aston Villa fans over on my TikTok saying, you just didn't deserve to win and so forth. Last season, it was the complete Polaroid opposite. We battered them. Ollie Watkins hit us on their counter-attack, and they did us. And then literally, that's what we've done. And if you can look at the stats here, people, we've got 61% possession. We had 514 passes. We had control of the game. They had the better opportunities. Don't get me wrong. They certainly did have the better opportunities. They certainly did. No matter what they did, they have the better opportunities. But we took our chances, and that's what they did to us last season. Aston Villa are a capable team, and they will fight for top 4 this season. We've gone to their ground at Villa Park, which is one of the hardest grounds to go to, as I know, because 2 years ago, I sat in the Villa end and watched us beat them with that Jorginho goal that hit the bar and went in. I sat in the Villa end, and I watched it, and I was like, yeah, this is a hard ground to go to. It's a very hard ground to go to. So we've gone and done that. We've took our form from last season, where at the start of last season, we looked like this, where we didn't look too great. We weren't amazing, but we were grinding out results. And I hope we do that again when it comes to January, February. We don't want that December period ever again. But we just keep grinding out results. It comes to January, boom, 4th gear, bam. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's exactly what I want. Should we go through some player ratings, guys? Are you happy doing that? Do you want to go through? I'm just going to ask who your man of the match was. That's all I'm going to ask. Who was your man of the match? Obviously, mine's going to be Raya for that save. It's got to be for me personally. Adam, well, who's your man of the match from the game?
Hate to be repetitive, but absolutely the same as you. And the reasons are that these massive moments in games dictate the way the match goes, and that's exactly what happened in this scenario. Raya made a world-class save. There's no other way of putting it. That's not standard save. That's not a sort of Roy Keane, it's his job situation. That is a world-class save. And I don't think many other keepers in the league could make that save, can make that save. Maybe one or two max, but it was an unbelievable save. You saw Watkins on the floor after he headed the ball. He looked absolutely stunned that hadn't gone into the back of the net. Yeah. Absolutely stunned. He couldn't believe it. So that just shows you how pivotal that moment was. And for that alone, he gets man of the match for me.
Yeah, and this is what keepers train for, lads. They jump up, they fall to the ground, they get straight back up to that agility just to get back, bounce back up and get there. And all that training has paid off for David Raya, and you can see it. You can completely see it. The start of last season with David Raya, that's when people were questioning it. He started to get into this team towards the latter end of the season. And now, yeah, like I've just said, it's paying back tenfold. It truly is. Graham, who was your man of the match from yesterday? It was 2 days ago now. Who was your man of the match?
Before I tell you my man of the matches, I will say that you're 100% right. That is what goalkeepers train for day in, day out, and that is getting back up, being in a position where they can make a save from a position when they're on the ground. So they train for that every single day. He made 3 saves on Saturday inside the box, one which was world class. He made a world class save, as you said earlier. One of you said earlier at Wolves. I was actually behind that goal last week, and when that cross came in and Larson flicked it, he had his weight going to the other side of the goal. He had to transfer his weight back and then get across with his right hand. And that was a strong right hand to claw that out. Because I swear in the ground, that went at a pace that you didn't, when you saw it back on the TV, when you watched it on Match of the Day, it looked quicker live than it did on the TV. And I swear to you, lads, that was past him. And he basically clawed it out. It was behind him, and he managed to claw it out.
Kind of like David Seaman. I
made that comment myself. Actually, it did remind me of the Seaman save. So not as good as the Seaman save, I have to say, but I could see the comparisons. But that, as Adam said, that was a world class save and save. I think Watkins. The only thing that I think that's helped Raya slightly was I think Watkins just focused on getting on target. If he had gone slightly with his side of his head and put it to slightly wider, he might not even as good as he reacted would have got there. But the other thing you've got to remember is when you look that back, if you freeze frame that picture when he makes that save, he has to not only get there, but he has to control it and get it away from goal because Bailey is there. If he had sort of saved it and it dropped down, Bailey would have tapped it in. So that's how massive that save was. So I think Sky gave him man of the match, and I can understand why he was man of the match. But I'm going to go for my man of the match to William Saliba, and the reason why I'm going to give it to William Saliba is he won all these duels, 7 duels he won in the game, 12 defensive actions, something like a 85% pass accuracy rate, and I think he was cool, calm, composed on the ball. The last ditch tackle as well, and that was actually just to correct you slightly on that, Jamie. It was actually Ramsey. It was Ramsey running through.
Was it
I know.
Ramsey?
Yeah, I can understand why you thought it was Rodgers because he was running through us all game.
It was
But it was actually that last ditch tackle, last man tackle, when they might have got a goal back because he was in a very good position on his left foot. For me, Saliba epitomised everything we talked about being a world class centre back in that game, and that's why he was my man of the match.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. So I'm going to go straight over to a question for both of you with William Saliba. Who's a better defender than William Saliba, and is he currently the best defender in the league and in the world? Who's better, Adam?
I can't think of a single name, to be quite honest with you. You know, we had these discussions during the Euros, didn't we? And we said, you know, the French team that had a very poor tournament, all told, really were kept in as long as they were because they had the best centre back in the world playing for them. I cannot identify somebody who I think is better than Saliba. I remember saying to you, Jamie, when I went to the Arsenal City game last October 2023, when we beat them 1-0, that Martinelli deflection, I was asked outside the ground who I thought was better, Saliba or Ruben Dias. And even then I said Saliba for me. And there are a few people there that went, "Oh, come on, you know, you're being a little bit hasty there with that, you know, with that decision." No, I stand by it. Absolutely stand by it. And I think what's happened since completely proves that to be the case. I think he is the best defender in the league by quite some considerable margin. The only person you could say who's close is maybe Ruben Dias. Of course, he got VVD, Virgil van Dijk. But I think he's miles ahead of both of those players, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Do you know what with that is, Ad? So I put up on my TikTok yesterday, I put up a video, I put up like a thing where it said keep, sell and buy of Saliba, Virgil van Dijk and Ruben Dias. I don't know if you've seen it, bro. I had probably 200 comments and I didn't see one of them not putting Saliba, and that was even to keep, to start. And that was Liverpool fans saying it as well. That's how you know you've got a player there. When TikTok people on TikTok, they just say the silliest things, yeah? And they're agreeing. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, wow, okay. Then so everyone's thinking that as well. So, Graham, do you think he's best defender in the league and even best defender in the world? What are you thinking?
I think he's the best defender in the league now. I think the best defender in the league for me before was Van Dijk.
Yeah, of course.
But I think we've seen over the last year the passing of the baton. And I think even Van Dijk's recognised it himself, because I noticed in the game last year, he sought Saliba out to speak to him after the game on the pitch. And I think that was recognition from Van Dijk, how good Saliba is. And I think that there was always I think he's, when he got into that French side in the Euros, because there was always some doubt whether Deschamps was going to pick him because he was sort of like not picking him. And then all of a sudden he got into the Euros and he had an outstanding Euros. That, I think, brought him to the attention. Anybody who had any doubts before, that performance in the Euros for me sealed it. So I don't know if he's the best centre-back in the world, because off the top of my head, I can't sort of like think who the best centre-backs in the world are at the moment. But Rudiger probably Real Madrid, but there's, you know, I'd have to think about it where he's the best in the world. He's certainly, for me, though, Jamie, the best in the Premier League now.
100%. I completely agree. So what I'll do, I'm going to pull down the table and we can have a little bit of look at the tables. Obviously, we're touching on the games and we could touch a little bit on Wolves if you like, because obviously me and Adam were at the Wolves game as well. We were sat, you were behind the goal, and as we were pretty much behind the corner flag, weren't we?
Yeah.
The opposite end. But the Wolves game for me, I'm going to touch on one thing from the Wolves game. We got the win. It was needed. I'm going to touch on the fans here, and I don't mean to criticise our own fans. It was very quiet. It was very. I don't know about for you two. I've spoke about this with you as well, Adam. It weren't rocking like the previous season. I know it's the first game of the season. People are coming back, but it was like yeah, we're going to win this kind of thing. Like it
Mm.
was, and then there's no one. Do you kind of see what I'm saying here, Ads? Like when we were there, we are both like, it felt like a friend.
Yeah. Yeah, I do, Jamie. Yeah, I do. Because obviously you and I went to the Lyon game that was pretty much exactly a week before, wasn't it?
Yeah, it felt
And
the same.
that was, that was even more so muted. And I said to you, didn't I? I said first game of the season, it's going to be absolutely rocking. And I would say the same as you, without wanting to sort of criticize and obviously know the metrics behind why it was a bit quieter, but it was also noticeably quieter for me as well. Obviously, having been a season ticket holder since 2021 now, we've been treated to some really amazing atmospheres in the
Yeah.
grounds since then, and there's been a constant improvement year on year. But it's a good point that you raise. I mean, I wonder whether there was an air of just we are going to win this game. It's the 3 p.m. against Wolves. We're going to, and I did notice that in some predictions from other fans before the game. I had a few people say to me, "Oh, it's going to be 4-0 Arsenal, 5-0 Arsenal." Which, of course, you love the confidence, don't you? But at the same time, every game, every single game, every single point that we achieve this season is going to be absolutely precious. And, whether we win a game 1-0 and it's KG and we just about get over the line, or whether we smash a team 6-0 and get 3 points, it's still 3 points that you get at the end of it. So, I think perhaps, I don't know what caused it. Maybe just some people decided they didn't want to go for whatever reason, or it's the first game of the season, or people still on holiday. But like I say, I can't really identify the specific metrics, but I do see what you were saying, and I did also notice it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna touch on one other thing. I'm just gonna let Graham take the floor with this one. There was a fitting tribute for a certain man in Kevin Campbell at the game. And I'm going to let Graham take the floor. Do you want to have a little talk about Kevin Campbell for us?
Yeah, I just think on Kevin Campbell, it's so sad that he's passed away. He's such a great man. I think he. I think the biggest tribute I can pay him, and I met him through AFTV, is that he was like a footballer who understood the game inside out, but he treated you like you were his equal. You felt so. When you're in his company, it's almost like, for me, it was like meeting my hero. I mean, when I used to go and watch Arsenal in the 90s when him and Wrighty were outstanding partnership. I've met him on stage a couple of times when we did events in London with him and Nigel Winterburn when I was with Lee Judges, funny enough, and Harry Simu. And I've met him around AFTV when he used to do a show with Lee Judges, and he always used to come across and talk to me about tactics and about the game. I wasn't a friend of Kevin's, but he made you feel as though you were his friend. And the biggest compliment I can pay him is that he was humble, and he was just such a nice man. I noticed all the tributes were about him as a human being. As great as he was as a footballer, Jamie, most of the tributes were about him as a human being, and the way he treated people. And that's a lovely legacy, a lovely way to be. We're on this planet for not a long time. It's all about being kind to people and getting on, respecting everybody. And Kevin respected everybody. He was an outstanding footballer, but he didn't sort of drum it down your throat or anything like that. He would talk to you about what you wanted to talk about the game. He respected your opinion, and he was just such a nice bloke. And it's such a sad loss. And it was great that his family were there on the day. And it was great that I think he got remembered the way he wanted to be remembered. It wasn't like a minute's silence. It was like spontaneous applause for a minute of recognition of his contribution to the club. And he would have wanted everyone to be happy. And it's fitting that we got the result on that day. He was a great footballer, but an even better human being.
Yeah, completely agree. So I'm just going to touch on that a second. It weren't even just me and Adam, we stood there clapping for 2 to 3 minutes. It weren't like everyone just carried on clapping. No one really stopped. It just carried on going. And that fits the legacy, don't it, really? And I'm going to touch on one thing as well, people. I always talk about this now that we've spoken about someone passing away. Mental health awareness is so important. There is people struggling. People are losing people. This is what happens. It's life. But there is people always out there to talk. So just check in on someone today, like I always say, and hit that 3-punch combination by liking, subscribing, and commenting down below. So let's move on over to this table. This is the Footy Talk Show, so we don't have to predominantly talk about Arsenal. We can talk about this whole table here, and then we'll move back on over to Arsenal about regarding fixtures moving forward, like we've previously done. Is there any surprises here for you, lads? Because obviously, I'm going to say a big, massive 2 surprises. I was at the Southampton and Nottingham Forest game on Saturday. Obviously, Adam knows. I know a few people in the Southampton community now. Went and did some interviews with Football Martin, who's their Southampton content creator. I did interview with him. Went down. Got treated to the game. Against Forest. Forest looked good all over them. They're my surprise. They're the 7th. They've took 4 points to play. Bournemouth drew, and they've also took 3 points from Southampton. They're looking good. They're looking good. They already took 4 points already, and Brighton's a massive surprise. I thought Brighton were going to fall off this season. Do you want to give me any surprise packages there, Ads?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, Brighton would have to be number one. I mean, well, you and I, we talked about the teams that we fancied to stay up, win the title, European places, relegation places, and I thought Brighton would be much, much further down. I know there's only 2 games. I know that people are going to say, well, hold on a second, they've only played 2 matches, but they look good. They look good. They were good against Manchester United. And obviously their first game they won very, very convincingly at tough ground. So they're looking very, very strong, and obviously they're our next match at the Emirates, and it doesn't look like they're going anywhere, which is very surprising given that De Zerbi left. He sort of left in a bit of a huff. Nobody really realised what went on between him and the club ownership. Very strange situation. It wasn't really explained. One minute he was there, the next minute he wasn't. And I think everybody, myself included, assumed that they would fall off, and that they would be much further down the table. That said, they are coming to the Emirates on Saturday. My expectation is that we will beat them, but I think it might well be a very tough game, and we're going to have to bring our best performance to do that. But the way they're looking, they're looking very good. And then yeah, again, Forest. Again, we said, didn't we? I think we both had Forest down as possibly a team to get relegated. I think I put them in my relegation places, didn't I, Jamie?
And I put them just out. I put them 17th, and you put them
17th.
You put them in 19th. Yeah,
That's it. So again, it's surprising. I do add the caveat that it's only 2 games in. This is very, very, very early, but they have some very good players, and they're making the most of those good players. And it's a tough ground to go to, isn't it? The City ground. It's not an easy place to go and play football. So, if they can use that to their advantage as much as possible this season, then they could be well, it could be a fair bit higher, couldn't they, than where we put them in the ranking. So those are the 2 obvious ones. I mean, to be honest, all of the other teams,
Wolves as well.
Thereabouts, isn't it?
Yeah, Wolves are a bit of a surprise. I thought Wolves. I don't say 2 games in, but we beat them, and then they got slapped by Chelsea yesterday.
They did. They did.
Destroyed. Couldn't believe
it.
They
did. Yeah, no, they got battered, didn't they? And I think again, Wolves under Gary O'Neill, you would expect a certain level of consistency, and you'd expect them to be there or thereabouts, because I rate him as a manager. I think he's a good manager. The ones that I want to mention, since we're talking about it, is obviously my feelings, Jamie, about Julian Lopetegui. I'm not the biggest fan of his. It's nothing personal, obviously. I don't know the guy, but I don't really rate him as a manager. I don't think he did brilliant.
Lads. At this point, it is.
I don't know. Yeah, but yeah. I mean, that remains to be seen, doesn't it? Because I think I was a bit surprised that West Ham decided to get rid of Moyes. I know it was a football-related decision. Their fans want to see better football, more attacking football, something a bit more easy on the eye. But they won a European trophy under him, and they were beating us at the Emirates. And Moyes looked like he had our number last season in 2 of the 3 games, because they beat us in the League Cup as well. So yeah, that was a strange one for me, and I don't think Lopetegui's a massive step up. I don't think he's a massive upgrade on what they had already. But again, you can't really take much away from 1 win and 1 loss, can you? It's it's just 3 points out of 6, and there's going to have to be another 3 or 4 games before I make any determination on them.
Completely agree. I'm just going to touch on Noni Madueke. I don't know if anyone's seen this. I don't know if you've seen it, Graham. I don't know if you've seen it, Adam. he accidentally put up a post on his Instagram the night before the Wolves game saying this place is an absolute hole. I don't like Wolverhampton. It was something along them lines. I'll probably pull it up in the edit. And, and then the next day he's went and scored a hat-trick against them after they're all abusing him because of what he said about them. And he's put it up out there and he's gone, yeah, I don't like the place. It's an absolute hole. It's a dive or whatever. And he's put his money where his mouth is and went and scored a hat-trick there. As much as I don't like Chelsea, I think fair play to him. He's well and done that. It's a bit disrespectful, but he's well and done it. So, Graham, any little surprises there for you?
Not really. I think the league is already showing us who the best three teams are, who are probably going to be up there competing for the title this season, and that's Manchester City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. So they've started with 100% records, 2 wins in their 2 games. It's also showing the teams that promoted, the likes of Ipswich and Southampton, how hard the league is. I fear for Everton. They've started really poorly. 7 goals shipped in 2 games. They look they're really in trouble under Dyche. Crystal Palace haven't started as well as I thought they would do, because they, at the back end of last season, were getting a bit of momentum under their new manager, because all that uncertainty over where Gahey's going to go to Newcastle, Anderson's now gone to Fulham. They lost Elise, of course, which is a big loss. But I don't know if you boys know today, they've gone out and I think the Eddie Nketiah deal's been done now. And it looks like,
done now. It's done.
Yeah, he's going to Palace, which will probably change the way they play. So I think they'll probably play 2 up top now, Eddie being part of a front 2. So surprised by that. The points that Adam made about West Ham, I concur actually. And the thing about that manager is he's been heavily backed in the transfer market, whereas Moyes was never really, I thought, really backed, and he's had a lot of money spent. He's had a lot of income, hasn't he? Virtually the whole defence has changed, and he's got that Rodrigo, isn't he, attacking midfield, or the midfielder he brought in. So he's sort of like been backed. They lost at home to Villa, but they got the result at Palace at the weekend. Brighton, of course, have started so well to beat Man United. I thought we saw everything about Man United that in these 2 games that showed where they are as a team and how Ten Hag is as a manager. I mean, his substitutions on Saturday cost them that game big time.
Yeah.
He took off Fernandes, he took off even Harry Maguire. You don't take off his centre half unless he's got an injury just to give De Ligt some minutes. So I think it's really strange managerial decisions.
Of your team, you can't do that, can you?
No, and the other thing is, I think he disturbed the balance of the team. And when you think of that winner that Brighton scored when they clipped it to the back post and Pedro headed it in, that comes from the fact that they've replaced their wide man who was working back. Anthony's come on, and working back is not his strong point, and he just didn't even track the guy, and basically the guy had a chance to put the free cross in. So I thought Ten Hag's management on Saturday was once again not great. I think that I was so glad that Smith Rowe got off the mark for Fulham, scored his goal, didn't he? I love that. I wish him every success there. So yeah, I don't think there's too many surprises the way that the season started. The strong teams have started well, we were expected, and the teams that are promoted have been, welcome to the Premier League. You can see how hard it is to stay in that league. And Brighton, as you say, have had 2 good wins. So yeah, I think it's pretty much what I thought, Adam. And Jamie.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's like I said, some of them are here and there. Wolves have surprised me a little bit. They ain't too great, but it is 2 games into the season. Go on.
Just quickly, Jamie, I was just going to say, I know that comment by Manuel Dwakey was, I think, pretty disrespectful to Wolves, I thought. And I will say that. And, we talked about Chelsea because obviously they got beat by Man City first game of the season. You can't really judge them in a game like that against the best team. But they were brilliant attacking wise. But Wolverhampton Wanderers, the defence yesterday, I just couldn't believe, how Chelsea could go from one end of the pitch, and where was the Wolves left back for about 3 of those goals? They just had 3 2v1s when Palmer and Madueke, no left back, centre half against 2, and Palmer just playing in Madueke every time. But funny enough, and this is incredible, I'll just get this stat in before you move on, Jamie. I looked at the XG after the game. Wolves had lost at home to Chelsea 6-2, and Wolves' XG was something like 1.96, and Chelsea's was something like 1. I can't remember. It was like either 1-2 or 1-4 something. But Wolves had the bigger XG, had the bigger chances. They lost at home 6-2. I couldn't. And the thing is about Chelsea, they've got some great attacking players, but they've got I don't rate the goalkeeper.
No,
The
me neither.
defence is not great. We talked about how good Saliba is. I don't rate either of their centre halves.
No.
They've lost to Reece James again. Gusto's okay. And of course, Cucurella obviously is a Euro winner of Spain, but I don't think they're defensively strong. And the two players in front of them who they played at the weekend, Enzo Fernandez and Casado, I just think they looked ordinary and they weren't protecting the defence. So Chelsea looked great going forward, but poor defensively. And Wolves had the higher XG, but got slapped 6-2. It was a real ironical score given those numbers.
Yeah, it was mad. And I am going to touch on Chelsea centre back. I don't know how that Badashile. So what Chelsea are doing, they're going, you know what? We ain't good at defending. We'll just outscore you. That's how that looked to me. But that Badashile, he is. I don't know how he's a professional footballer. I don't know how every time I see him, he's falling over his own feet. He can't pass a ball. He's absolutely shocking. He's absolutely shocking. But I'm not gonna talk too much on Chelsea because the Chelsea fans already don't like me. So because I've gone in on
Well,
him a little bit.
they did. He didn't play at the weekend, did he? It was Colwill
Yeah,
and Fofana. But
yeah.
I don't think that they got great centre half options. I'll leave it
They've
there.
got so many of them though. They've got
I
Disasi,
mean,
they've got Chile.
yeah, they have. Well,
Yeah,
they've got enough players to
Phil,
fill something like
two
two
seconds.
buses, didn't they? So
Yeah,
basically, so
7 players in that first team.
yeah.
It's something stupid
Well,
like that. Yeah, but let's move on over. So obviously on Saturday the 31st at 12:30, which I'm assuming both of you two will be there for this game.
yeah.
It's Brighton away, at home, and then it's Tottenham. So obviously we have the 2-week international break, which I hate the international break at this point. I don't know why they always put it in after the third game. No one cares. No one wants to watch it. No one wants to care. We want to just get into our football, man. We've missed it for weeks and weeks on end. 5 to 6 weeks we ain't seen our clubs play for. We just want to see our clubs play. We've just seen international. We've just seen them at the Euros. We don't want to see England again. I'm already depressed from the last England final. I don't need to see them yet again. But yeah, so we have Tottenham and then we have Man City. So 3 big games. Brighton are looking like they're on fire. Then we have Leicester. Then we have Southampton. Then we have Bournemouth. I'm going to be there at the Southampton game. That's the one I'm looking at so far. But there, what are we thinking, lads? So I'm going to say what I think from this. Brighton used to be our bogey team. I don't think they really are anymore. I think we've got rid of that hoodoo. We've got rid of the black magic. We've done it somehow. It's gone. I'm just going to ask I'm going to ask you to go through. Just do the first 3 games. So Brighton, Tottenham, Man City. What's minimum points you take from that? I'll take 7 points. 6 could be minimum because we could lose one of them, but I'd be happy with 7 points from that. I'm not going to sit here and go 9 points, because I think you've got to be a bit realistic. Man City away at the Etihad, where even Klopp only won there twice in his whole tenure against Pep Guardiola. I'm pretty sure that's correct. I think we've spoke about that before as well, Graham. I think he's only won there twice in his whole tenure. I don't know if you're going to correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's factual. I thought I'd seen it on Sky Sports. But yeah, I'd be happy with 6 to 7 points from them fixtures there. What about you, Ads?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think 7 points would make me very, very happy indeed. First of all, the Brighton game on the 31st, that's my 30th birthday. So I certainly hope that Arsenal are giving me 3 points as a birthday present there. Certainly crossing my fingers for that one. The Spurs one, I think we'll have too much for Spurs. I know that they look like they are improving, but then, it's going to be a red hot White Hart Lane. I think that's what they're still calling their ground at the moment. White Hart Lane. I think it's just the new White Hart Lane now, isn't it?
I thought
So
it's
I
called the
think that's
Tottenham
going to be.
Hotspur Stadium.
Was it the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium?
I
Okay.
think.
Well, it's going to be a tough game. Obviously, it's going to be, the atmosphere that goes with that. We're going to be in the pressure cooker, aren't we, for that one?
Yeah.
And we're going to have to handle it. It's going to be Villa, but to the power of, essentially. So that's going to be a very, very tough game. But I back us to win it. I would back us to win at White Hart Lane or Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And then the tough one is the Etihad, of course. The Etihad's going to be a very, very difficult place to go. When we were doing our interviews outside the ground, Jamie, I asked Lee, I said, do you think Man City will fall off? Do you think because of obviously Guardiola potentially leaving and the financial fair play stuff, do you think that will essentially dent their confidence? And he turned around and said, absolutely not. They are going to be the exact same beast that they've been over the last few seasons. And so far, it looks like that's correct. Obviously, Haaland getting a hat-trick at the weekend. They beat Chelsea convincingly in the first games. They don't look like they've stepped off at all,
No.
which is unfortunate for us. But we've just got to do our part. I'd probably, do you know what? If I was offered a draw now, if I was offered 2 wins and a draw, I'd take it 100%. 7 out of 9 points. And then we've got 13 out of 5. That would be so.
Would
13
be
out
top
of
pretty
15.
much. Yeah.
We'd be pretty much top of the league, and then obviously you've got the likes of Leicester after, Southampton and Bournemouth away. And I think on the way we're playing, the Arsenal that we are now, you would back us to win all 3 of those games.
Of course you would, yeah. I think there's realism. Like, don't get me wrong. Of course, I feel we're Arsenal Football Club. We should be taking 9 points, but I'm just kind of thinking realistically. Man City, I'd be happy with 7. It might not be the best mentality, but it is what it is. It's Man City, different kettle of fish. I'd be happy. I know people like what happened last season when we went to the Etihad, and like I've just touched on, Klopp didn't do too great at the Etihad for a long, long time. So I think it's fair to go that. I'd be happy if he sat back again and did it. And I know people are like, oh, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? It can matter at the end of the season. We take a point off them, they take a point of us. Evens, Ivers. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll take it. What about you, Graham? What are you thinking from the 3 fixtures there?
Well, obviously, they're 3 difficult fixtures. First of all, I think Brighton at home is a more difficult fixture given their start, and so they're going to be very confident. Tottenham away is just a difficult fixture because North London derbies are different type of games. Now, you can be the better team in North London derbies. The fact is, a North London derby pretty much evens it up. And they're at home. We've got a good record there the last 2 years, and I think we are stronger than them. But I still think on a given day they're capable of sort of giving us a game where we might not even win it. So I think the important thing is you're looking at you don't want to get too far behind Man City at this stage. A Man City team, I might add, that hasn't had a lot of its strongest players back in it yet. I know they've had an easy start with Ipswich at home, and they won last week at Chelsea. But you've got to remember, they haven't had Walker back yet. They haven't had Stones, has only just come back. He didn't start the first 2 games. Rodri's not playing yet, and Foden is not starting either. So they've got a lot of players to come back in. So when they play us, you can bet your bottom dollar that all those players will be back in positioned. So they go with their strongest team, and Rodri will be back, who's key for them. I think 2 scenarios I'll give you here. It's all about, for me, about sort of like trying to stay with Man City. Now, if you offered me a draw at Man City now, but only a draw at Tottenham, and beat Brighton, I know it sounds crazy, you want 7, but I would take that for the simple reason that if Man City were to win the game when we draw at Tottenham, they'd only be 2 points ahead of us. If we get 6 points, then lose at City, City are 3 points ahead of us, whereas if we drew those 2 games, they'd only be 2 points ahead of us. So I'm thinking, I'm looking at thinking of how we can stay around Man City because we don't want them running away. That's why it was so important to get that win on Saturday at Villa, because if we'd lost that or not won that, and then City beat us, they could be 5 points ahead of us already. So, and we've seen that when they get ahead, they're very hard to claw back. So, in an ideal world, I'd take 7. I'd bite your hand off a 7.
Yes,
But it wouldn't be too much of a disaster as long as you could guarantee me that we got a draw at City. And we went there last year and drew at City. They didn't score against us in the 2 Premier League games last year. If we drew at Tottenham and drew at City, it wouldn't be a complete disaster, because even if they won that middle fixture when we drew at Tottenham, they'd only be 2 points ahead of us. And as you said, Jamie, we've got then a favourable run of 3 or 4 fixtures as a Champions League campaign starts. So ideally 7, but I wouldn't be too disappointed if we drew with Tottenham and drew with City. If you understand my thinking.
Yeah, 100%. I completely understand what you're saying. I'm going to touch on a few things, and then we'll start wrapping it up. And also, people, if you are watching, remember to hit that 3-punch combination, so bam, 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 by liking, subscribing, and commenting down below. I am going to ask, realistically, can we win a league title without bringing in a forward? This has been asked a lot at the grounds. People have interviewed me asking it, so I thought I'd ask others. I've said 100% we can still win the league. It would help us getting a forward, a striker, but I think we're still capable of winning a league. Man City did it without a full-blown striker before Haaland came in. I still think we can, but a lot of Arsenal fans are writing us off if we don't sign a striker. So what my question is to both of you, so I'll ask Adam first. Can we still win the league with without signing a big striker like Gyökeres or I'm just giving examples, Alexander Isak. Can we still win the league without a striker? As all the pundits are saying too. What do you think? Yeah, if you say yes, just give me the reason why.
I would say yes. I would say yes. I would say yes, we can, because of Havertz's form and the way Havertz has gone through the gears. But I would add a caveat that Havertz is going to have to stay in that kind of form for the whole season, and he's going to have to continue to move through the gears and score the goals that we need him to score. If you're asking him to play in that number 9 role, which Arteta has been asking him to play in, and scoring these goals, regularly, he's going to have to do it. His conversion rate's going to have to be good. I have seen again some statistics, again from Sky Sports actually, because they did a little piece on this, and Havertz's goal contributions are actually very high. He basically makes a lot of chances for goal scoring opportunities and scores a lot of goals himself as well. And the statistics surprised me actually, because they were higher than I thought. So I think if you look at that and you look at his end to last season, the kind of confidence he's in at the moment, you would have to say that he's capable of it. Where I would offer a little bit of a view on the other side of that is, I would say that it's about options. Just because we can do it with Havertz and the team that we've got now doesn't mean that if we were to add another player of the right ilk, that we could do it more convincingly and more easily. And I think we would if we were to get the likes of a Gyökeres or whoever it might be that comes in. I know that they're still looking at Osimhen. I don't think that's going to happen personally. I think it's Gyökeres or no one from what I've been seeing, but of course I could be wrong. But I think really has a lot of pressure. You're putting a lot of pressure on Havertz if you are going into the season without signing somebody new and saying to Kai Havertz, you've got to score the goals that are going to win us the league. But I back him. I think he's capable of doing it. And of course, we've got a lot of other very good attacking players. We've got the likes of Bukayo Saka, of course. Martinelli, this was something I did want to briefly touch on, but I will briefly touch on it and then move on. I don't know what's quite happening with Martinelli at the moment. Something's just not quite right. The confidence levels aren't there. And I would add as well that Martinelli has been and is one of my favourite players in the Arsenal team. I absolutely love him. But I'm just watching his play at the moment, and something's just not right. And then, of course, if we're looking back at the Villa game, Trossard comes on and changes the game completely. Yeah. So it might be that we're going to have to be more reliant on Trossard, try and work Martinelli back into a little bit of form. And then, of course, we've got our attacking midfielders, the likes of Odegaard. Rice is being pushed further forward. I think Mikel hopes that he's going to score some more goals this season. He's going to contribute in the goal-scoring side of things as well. So it will be interesting. I think, why can't we? I'm not going to sit here and say we definitely can't win it if we don't get a striker. But I think getting a striker would be extremely advantageous and would offer us, different aspects to our game. Plan Bs, Plan Cs. I know he has them because Mikel's very tactically fluid. He's that sort of manager. But I think the more we've got, the more likely we are to win what is probably the most competitive league we've seen in any Premier League season to date.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. I completely agree. So, like we've just touched on, with Eddie Nketiah is going out the door. We all know this. £25 million plus £5 million add-ons. David Ornstein has said that today with the Orny Bomber. Jesus is injured. Mikel Arteta has touched on, he did the old Arsene Wenger thing where he said pretty much something will happen towards the end of the window. Do you remember when Arsene Wenger did that little thing? We all know when he did it, he looked in that little face and Mesut Ozil was signed, that kind of thing. He did that the other day. I can't see us letting go of Eddie and while Gabriel Jesus has just got injured and then not bring in someone. I can't see. And just to touch on something for you, Ads, because you said about Kai Havertz. The end of last season, when he was a centre forward from February onwards, I'm pretty sure he had 16 goal involvements and 21 appearances, which was the third best in the league for that. And that was when he went as a centre forward. So I'm going to ask you, Graham, as well. Can we still win the league with Kai Havertz up front? What do you think?
Well, we've always scored goals from pretty much right across the team, haven't we? The front line has always scored goals. I think Arteta said himself, the injury to Jesus and the fact that Nketiah is going is going to leave us short. So the problem you're going to have is, and I'll come with it with a slightly different argument. It's not so much if Havertz can score the goals; it's if Havertz can stay fit, for the season. If he was to get an injury,
We'll be done.
I think then we would be in a really difficult situation. We'd have to play almost like play with Jesus if his injury continue at the rate they're continuing, which is quite alarming. We'd almost have to play Trossard false nine because I just don't see what the other options are. So he knows, I think he's going to have to bring a striker in or a front player. And I think they got Eddie. Eddie was going because obviously Arteta doesn't trust him, doesn't think he's good enough. I think that's the thinking. So he's obviously with Eddie going and Jesus injured. Havertz is. It's going to be a long season. We're in 4 competitions. We're going to need backup, and we're going to need another striker. So, in answer to your question, can we win the league? Obviously, we got a great chance of winning the league, but I do think that the problem is Man City is so strong. They've got so much depth that you're going to need players to come in because I don't think Havertz, to sort of like share out Havertz's workload. I don't think if Jesus is not fit, of course, if Jesus was fit, it would be a lot easier, but he's not fit. And he's got a history of injuries since he's come to Arsenal that have made him really unreliable. So with Eddie going, we almost have to get another forward in just for depth and to make sure that we're covered if we want to rest Havertz or Havertz gets an injury. So I think in answer to your question, I think in order to win the league, I think we're going to need to buy another forward player for that reason, not just the fact that whether Havertz can do it. We're just going to need to have another forward player. I don't know who that player is. The only player I've seen they've been linked to over the last 24 hours is Lookman, who was going to PSG, and then it all fell through, didn't it? He's playing in Italy at Atlanta, I think. So I don't know who that forward player is. But the way Arteta, I think, was getting the money out the door, it's all like getting Smith Rowe's wages off the books. Eddie was on a big wage, something like 100,000 plus a week. So you get those players off the wage bill, and then you bring in that player. You can afford to bring in that player. Arsenal have been quite shrewd. They've sort of like got rid of Smith Rowe. They got rid of Eddie, and Charlie Patino's going as well to Spain.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot of 3 players out there and got incomings of 60 million plus, 60, 70 million. And they've got rid of those wages, clearing the way for another player to come in. They brought in Calafiori. Marino's arriving this week. That deal looks like it's being done. So that's Calafiori is £40 million, and Marino's about £30 million, £35 million, something like that. So those 2 players are replacing the outgoings, but it clears the way with the wages off the books now for them to go out and get another forward player. So I think we do need one if we're going to challenge for the league, simply because of squad depth, and also to give Havertz a break to manage his workload, because he's going to be almost like playing most games, and Jesus' unreliability has added to that problem, hasn't it?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Graham. I completely agree with you. I've said this to Adam already. I said I put up TikTok posts, I put videos when we were going in for. I got told. So basically, I'll tell you, Graham. I got told I've got a source what tells me transfer stuff, and he told me the exact date about Mikael Murray, about Calafiori. He did, didn't he? As he told me, he goes when he comes back from Arsenal, when we were all like in strife, like is he coming or not? My source told me that Calafiori, as soon as he come back from holiday, he was signing. Simple as that. He told me about Mikael Moreno. He told me that Newcastle were going in for Guehi 3 days before Fabrizio Romano, and he specifically told me. He's got about 7 out of 9. So big up to him. I'm not going to mention his name, but he's got about 7 or 9 right, what he's told me. And he said to me that, and I'll put it up in a video, he said that Smith Rowe goes, Eddie and Nketiah goes, we go in for Gyökeres. And I don't know what information he's got, but a lot of the times he has been right. So I'm just going to put people, you can take it how you want. I'm not an ITK, I'm not a transfer source, but that is what I have been told. And Adam knows, I've told him a few things and then they've happened. And I'm like, oh, this source is actually quite good. I'm a bit surprised how well he's done for me. He's literally got 7 out of 9 rights for me before big sources are saying it. So he must be doing quite well. I'm going to touch on the last thing. I'm just going to say, you know what, people, you know what, ads? Give me your favourite footballer. We're going to finish off on a really good note. Give me your favourite footballer from the current Arsenal crop and why they're your favourite footballer.
Oh, from the current squad.
Yeah, current squad right now. Who's your favourite footballer from Arsenal Football Club?
Gosh, I would have to go with Bukayo Saka. I think he's just unbelievable. He's got just so much talent. It amazes me every time I watch him how talented he is and how much he can do. He's just going through the stratosphere, the football stratosphere, and he's reaching the very, very, very top. And I think sometimes we forget how young he still is. He's still incredibly young.
22, he's turning 23 next month.
Which is absolutely crazy that he's not even reached his peak. He's not going to be at his peak for another 2-3 years.
At least,
And
yeah.
this is how good he is at the moment. So I think, thinking about goals, obviously I touched on Martinelli, Trossard, and all that sort of stuff, but Saka on that other wing is going to be very, very pivotal to how we do this season. How many goals can he score? How much freedom is he going to get? How many assists, goals, contributions can he make this season? I think statistically, I think he's the most foul player in the league. I read.
It used to be Jack Grealish, and now it is Bukayo.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense, really, because basically teams try and kick him off the park because they know just how talented he is. So I think he's just, he's just incredible player. I noticed again, he got a tough atmosphere at Villa Park once again at the weekend. Didn't phase him. Played his normal game. So yeah, I mean, he's what he's come through in his career, the sort of adversity he's had to suffer so far, missing that penalty in the Euros final. He's come back from that and he's never faltered, and he's just got better and better and better. And I really want this to be that season where he really, really, really goes from, becoming world class to absolutely world class, unstoppable. And I think he will. I think if we win the league, he's going to have a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, brother. I'll come to Graham. I'm going to say, obviously, mine is Bukayo. He's our star boy. I love him to bits. I absolutely love him to bits. And then I am going to touch on it because you spoke about Villa Park. I'm going to touch on it. Adam knows this. I went to Villa Park 2 years ago and I seen him. I was in the Villa end and I seen stuff happen to him, and it made me love him even more. Because when what people don't realise when they at that game, I was sat in that Villa end. I was sat in the whole end, and the things they were saying to him, and it weren't just normal abuse. It was different types of abuse, which I'm not going to talk about on YouTube. And that's why he went up to that corner flag and he held the corner flag at that Villa game. If we all remember, that's what he did. He stood on the corner flag when he scored the volley against Emi Martinez. That was why, because he was getting torrid abuse. But I love him. I absolutely love him. He's just our star boy. And even like people I know, her. It's people I know who are like Southampton fans, and their favourite player is Bukayo Saka. That we love him. We absolutely love him. And I think this Euros has changed people's perspectives on him. And I think that's what it is. I think it has changed perspectives about people going, he's world class or whatever. But Bukayo Saka is my favourite Arsenal player. And I do think if he stays with us for a very long time, like we hope and we plan for, and he doesn't get overplayed, starts picking up knocks like Jack Wilshere did, he will go into the history books as one of Arsenal's legends. And I truly, truly believe that. Graham, who's your favourite Arsenal player and why currently?
Well, I was going to say Saka as well. So I will offer you an alternative because you obviously both gone for Saka. The one thing I'll say about Saka, first of all, is we sort of like talked about we need a striker, someone who's going to score 20 plus goals, to sort of like give us a greater chance of winning the Premier League. I think Saka could easily score more than 20 goals this year. If you look at his numbers over the last 3 years in the Premier League, he's been going up every year. I think it was 11 3 years ago, 14, 16 in the Premier League last year. So there's no reason why he can't get 20 plus. And I think you do need someone who's going to score 20 plus goals. I think only 3 teams in the last 15 years have won the Premier League without having a striker or a player who scored 20 plus goals. But the thing I like about Saka, as great as he is to watch, because I think Mikel made a great point. You know what he's going to do, you just can't stop it. And but the thing is, I watched him in that Wolves game, and obviously he had a great assist, and he scored a goal, a trademark Saka goal. And I thought, do you know what? Is he having one of his better games? And then I got home and I looked at the numbers, and he was first in every category. It's just not just what he does on the ball when he's attacking. It's what he does off the ball. He won most duels. He had most recoveries, most tackles. He respects both parts of the game, on the ball and off the ball. That's what makes him so elite, because he's not only is he up high, sort of like creating most touches in the box, but he gets back and defends as well. And he basically takes a lot of stick, but he's just always able to sort of like come back from it. And I just love his attitude, you know. And I always go back to that post he posted on Twitter or Instagram. I think it was Twitter, where he said he was sort of like, when we were going through that bad run, he just broke into the team. There's a picture of him on the pitch at the Emirates, and he's saying Arsenal fans deserve better.
Yeah.
And he's one of the reasons why we have got to where we've got, because of what he's done over the last few years. And he for me is the best right winger in the world. I know a lot of people say Rodrigo, Real Madrid. Salah is obviously, people say Salah. Salah for me has been a great right winger. I think, like Van Dijk, I think he's slightly starting to dip. He's still a great player, Salah. So I wouldn't argue if you said Salah. But for me, Bukayo, he's only 22. He's 100 Premier League wins before he was 23. Only 4 players have done that. He's an outstanding talent. But I will give you an alternative, because you've both gone for Saka. I'm going to go for Martin Odegaard. The reason I go for Martin Odegaard is he's our captain. I love his attitude, his work rate off the ball. He never stops running, that guy. And also, he's become almost like the all-purpose midfielder. He can play when we build from the back. He can drop back into a pivot. He can play on the right-hand side. He can play at 10. He can play at 8. He's just he can play in all 3 phases of the pitch, Odegaard, in the first phase, the second phase, and the third phase. And what I really love about him is he's connected with the fans as captain. He leads by example on the pitch. Every single game, new boys are at the game, he's always the last player off that pitch. He walks around every side of the stadium, clapping all the fans. He's just a great ambassador for Arsenal Football Club, and he's just a great talent. We got him for Real Madrid for something like 30 odd million. It's a steal, isn't it? He's a fantastic footballer, and he leads our club so well. So I would say Martin Odegaard.
Completely back it, Graham. I completely back it. And just, I'm just going to touch on one last thing. You know, you said how much he cost. We love a £32 million signing. That's our go-to. £32 million. We always, what was it with Odegaard? It was with Gabriel. It was with Saliba, I think, as well. I think all 3 of them were £32 million. So we do love a £32 million. I want to thank both of you for coming on. Obviously, we're up to the hour mark, so we're going to call it a night today. It is 20 to 9 at night. I'm going to touch on 2 things like I always do, people. You know the drill. So we're going to talk about mental health awareness, checking in on someone today. I know I just previously touched on it, but it's okay to touch on it again. If you listen to me, if you've got your headphones and you're on the train, you're on a bus, you're on anything, take your headphone out, checking on the person next to you, checking on a family member, checking on a friend, because the people that are struggling, they don't talk about it. They do not talk about it. So everyone needs a helping hand sometimes. Everyone needs someone to put their hand on their shoulder and say, look, it's going to be all right. I'm here for you. So if you're watching this right now and you're looking at me, just remember, you can always DM me. You know, on TikTok, I'm jgunner17. You can always DM me. You can DM me on YouTube, and I am on X, which we call Twitter, which is jgunner1717. Just DM me if you're in any strife. Just message me, because I'm always here to listen to, and also stand up to racism, because I have been getting a lot of stuff in my TikTok lives. I know previously talked about this on the podcast, so I don't want to run too deeply into it. But there has been a lot of racist comments in my lives and stuff. I get them every day. As soon as I put up a Bukayo Saka picture, it's always the same. And it's not okay, people. It's not okay. The people what sit there and ignore it, they are part of the problem. You've got to stand up to it, people. You've got to stand up to it. Like they said, the football, stand up to racism. So they're the 2 things to take away from this, is stand up to racism and checking on someone today because of mental health awareness. Thank you, Adam, for jumping on. Obviously, he's the co-host. He's always on here. But thank you, Adam. Do you want to put your plugs in and say goodbye?
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. Completely endorse everything you've just said. They're very important messages for people to listen to. So I'm AGN Football over on TikTok, AGN Entertainment on YouTube. As all of you will know, Jamie and I, we do regular podcasts, but I'm also doing things like watch-alongs now, TikTok lives, TikTok shorts, all the rest of it, YouTube shorts. So if it's football content you want, you're in the right place. So check out the channel, and thank you very much to both of you for today, and thank you everybody for watching as well.
There you go. Adam is doing some really, really good content later. And just to touch on one thing, He's a really, really genuine bloke as well. Really, really good lad. He might smell a little bit in person. He might be a bit smelly, but he's a really good lad. Graham, do you want to drop any plugs? Do you want anything to say goodbye to people? And thank you for coming on as well, Graham.
Yeah, I think you two guys are great guys, and I think what you're doing is fantastic. You know, I've really enjoyed being on with you tonight. If anyone wants to check out, I did a show today on AFTV. I do the Tactical Insight show on AFTV Media. If you go to YouTube and type in AFTV Media, Tactical Insight show, I do a show with James Bayliss on there. We did one on the Aston Villa game. That's on AFTV right now. I'm on Twitter at GrahamB195, and I'm also on Instagram at Graham_Brooks1. So that's my handles. But thanks, guys, for having me on. It's been a great chat tonight. I think I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think we both have as well. Certainly me,
Absolutely.
and I'm speaking for Adam as well.
Absolutely.
So people, goodbye. Take care of yourself. Good evening, like we just said, and we will see you all later.